Let's talk about all the food at Secrets Akumal.
Welcome back to A Couple Travelers. Jenna and Andy here. In today's video, we're going to be doing a full dining overview of Secrets Akumal, located in Riviera Maya, Mexico. They have 9 dining options. We're going to be going through them all, sharing when they're open, if they have a dress code, and what we thought of the food, more importantly. And stay tuned to the end of the video. We're going to be sharing some of the surprise dining options that they had at this resort.
The great thing about this resort is that you do not need dining reservations. The one exception is that if you want to have hibachi at Hitsu, however, if you want to eat the a la carte menu at Hitsu, that does not require a reservation.
So before we get into the dining options, wanted to give kind of an overview of the 2 different dress codes for the restaurants. So they're either going to be a casual dress code or a casual elegance dress code. With the casual dress code, that means, if you have bathing suits on, to have some sort of cover up over it. It also means you could wear shorts, sneakers, sandals, flip-flops, but basically make sure you're covered and presentable. With the casual elegance dress code, that unfortunately means long pants for the gentlemen. And it means a nice shirt, maybe like a polo or a button down, and having closed-toed shoes.
Don't mind the closed-toed shoes or the nice shirts, it's more so the pants.
Yes, and the thing at Secrets, or at least at Secrets Akumal, which we just went to, is all of the places to eat dinner require the casual elegance dress code, except for the 2 restaurants that are outside and therefore open air, where you could wear shorts. But for the majority of dinners, men are going to be in long pants.
So let's get into the 9 dining options. The first of which is Barefoot Grill, and this is pretty much your pool bar and lunch space by the pool. It's open daily for lunch from 12 to 4, and the bar is open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And since this is your pool bar, the dress code here is casual, so completely okay to be walking up in your bathing suit. One of the things we really loved about this, in addition to the amazing food, was that you can order food and drinks directly from your pool chair. So they had a good number of servers all around the pool coming to take your orders, and then they actually encourage you to order your food from them, so they could go to the grill, place the order, and then they'll bring it back to your pool chair. And they also had some traditional tables and chairs right outside the grill too, where you could get some food. But speaking of the food, probably some of the best resort lunch poolside food we've ever had. I mean, in Mexico, it makes sense that it was some really awesome quesadillas. Guacamole, best we've ever had.
Yep.
So I do not think you're going to go hungry if you're hanging out by the pool.
We're still thinking about those chicken quesadillas. It's really sad. Up next, we have Bordeaux, which is the French restaurant. It is open for dinner and requires a casual elegance dress code. This definitely was the fanciest, I think, of all the dining options at the resort. The decor was really nice here, and it was a pretty typical French menu. The French onion soup, chicken cordon bleu, they had ratatouille, creme brulee, steak options. It really had a wide variety. Everyone in my family loved this restaurant. My dad, my brother, my mom, absolutely raved about it. It was one of their favorite places.
Next up is the Coco Cafe. This is your quick service coffee shop, and it's open for 24 hours. So if you're going for a walk on the beach in the morning and want to get a quick iced coffee before you go on your walk, this is the place to go to for that. They have pastries. They even had some soft pretzels inside.
And some sandwiches.
Yeah, some pre-made stuff. So you're really good, typical resort quick service place for a quick bite or a quick drink. And the dress code here is casual.
Next up is El Patio. This is a Mexican restaurant open for dinner that requires a casual elegance dress code. Now this is really authentic Mexican, so not like the Americanized version that you have, in your local town. But the food and especially the drinks here were really good. They had some, obviously their tequila selection in Mexico is gonna be excellent. They had really creative cocktails. I forget what kind of margarita I had, but it was purplish and it had a cool spice around the rim, and it was really good. And we tried, between the 6 of us, a huge chunk of the menu, from the chicken tortilla soups to different tostadas and mini appetizers, and we all got different entrees and the churro dessert. Everything was good here.
I really like this restaurant because Mexican is my personal favorite cuisine, but having, to Jenna's point, like the Americanized Mexican at home, you have to sometimes like search for like the really authentic iteration of that. So to go to Mexico and have the local servers and chefs like bring and prepare you these meals was really cool. So the food was excellent and one of the highlights of the trip.
And even just the like guacamole and even the different salsas we started the meal off with were just excellent.
If this has been helpful, please like this video and consider subscribing. We already have a few Secrets Akumal videos out in the channel right now, including a room tour, a full walkthrough tour of the resort, and a full honest review of the resort as well.
In addition, if you are interested in traveling to Secrets Akumal, I am a travel agent, and you may not know, but it is completely free to work with an agent. So if you're interested in getting a no obligation quote or just learning more about this resort, I'll put my email address in the video description below.
Next up is Hitsu, and this is the Pan-Asian and hibachi restaurant at the resort. It's open for dinner and it has a casual elegance dress code. Now, like we mentioned at the top of the video, if you do want to dine here for hibachi, that does require a reservation. However, if you just want to dine the a la carte Pan-Asian menu, you do not need a reservation for that. The other thing to keep in mind is that if you do have a hibachi reservation, you cannot order off the a la carte menu and vice versa. So just keep that in mind if you do plan on dining at Hitsu. It might even be a 2-night dinner option for you.
And I'll say, of all the restaurants we ate at during the trip, Hitsu was my personal favorite. I love Asian food, but the menu was great. We didn't do hibachi, we just did the a la carte menu. The sushi was fantastic. We had like spring rolls, I had ramen as my main meal. Everything was delicious. Highly recommend this restaurant. Next up, we have Market Cafe, which is the buffet at Secrets Akumal. It's open for both breakfast and lunch and just has a casual dress code. This is one of the only breakfast options for non-preferred club guests staying at the resort. Preferred club guests also have one other sit-down restaurant that's exclusive to them. And then of course there's Coco Cafe, which is open 24/7, which you get coffee and pastries and whatnot. But this is the main breakfast option for the other guests. And we were a little worried that we'd get sick of going to the buffet every day, but they had such an array of options. This really is one of the biggest buffets. It, rivals like a cruise buffet.
Really impressive.
How big of a space it was and all of the different options there. So we did not get sick of eating here every day for breakfast, but we never tried the buffet lunch.
We never did, but I'm sure the spread there would be just as good as the one there was for breakfast. But just to give you more of an example of the types of food we're talking and just the overall variety, I mean, talk about the authenticity of the food. They had chilaquiles available for breakfast. They had guacamole available for breakfast. An omelet station, they had this cool donut wall with a bunch of different donuts like on pegs that you could take off and put on your plate.
Homemade crepes.
Homemade crepes, which we haven't seen at a resort buffet before. Obviously, great fresh fruit, and not just like your pineapples and cantaloupe and stuff, but like
exotic
jackfruit and mango and like all the good stuff that you would expect in Mexico.
I know my mom and brother were obsessed with this like chia seed coconut pudding thing that they topped with like granola and fruit and stuff. And then remember they had like a mimosa bar with all these different juices to make like bellinis and a Bloody Mary bar, and they just like everywhere you went there were just different stations that offered a ton of things.
Next up is Oceana. This is the seafood restaurant. It is open for dinner, and since it's outdoor seating, it has a casual dress code. We did not get to eat here for dinner on this trip, so we can't speak to the food specifically. However, we did attend a tuna class on one of the days of our trip where they brought out this $3,000 tuna and gave you different parts of it, some raw, some cooked, some different varieties of how you can prepare and eat it. So they do have some different stuff going on in this restaurant throughout the week.
Up next, we have Portofino, which is the Italian restaurant at the resort. This is open for dinner and requires a casual elegance dress code. We went here on our first night, so we were like super tired. We were so hungry after the day of travel, and this restaurant hit the spot. It had, you know, some classics. We absolutely loved the carbonara. The pizza was good, the beef carpaccio was good, the tiramisu was good. I mean, everyone really enjoyed their meal. And one of the best parts was that all the servers came out at once, so all 6 of us got our dinner at the same time, and they all simultaneously pulled off the covers for the dishes, so it was kind of like a grand unveiling of all the food for the main course, which was really fun.
Now let's talk about the last of the 9 dining options before we get into some of the miscellaneous stuff and then some of the surprise food that came out at the resort as well. But this dining option is Seaside Grill. It is open for breakfast for preferred club guests only, but then it is open for lunch and dinner for all guests. And this is your more traditional culinary restaurant. They have a little bit of everything. They have a salad bar, they have a number of steak options for dinner. Jenna had some really good fish tacos for lunch. It's more casual. It does have a casual dress code here since it's outdoors, but a good variety of food options across breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
So now let's talk about some of the miscellaneous dining options at the resort. The first of which is room service, which is available 24/7 for everyone at the resort, no matter what room category you book, which is great.
Yeah.
And the room service menu was very large.
Yeah.
Like surprisingly large.
Yeah.
One night we needed like a late night snack. I ordered like a BLT. You had
Nachos, I think.
nachos maybe. On the last morning we had, and we had to leave the resort pretty early to go catch our flight home. And so we had ordered pancakes and waffles and stuff. I love that they have a special box in the room to receive room service where you don't have to let them come into your room. They put a little box that has a 2-way door, so they put it in from the hall and you can open it from your room and get your room service, which is really fun. But the room service food was very good quality.
The next miscellaneous food option was the pizza by the pool. Probably some of the best pizza I've had on a vacation. They had a number of different options, all cooked in a wood-fired grill. So a really great lunch option if you're hanging by the pool.
And while you're hanging by the pool, there's a couple of other things that kind of pop up throughout the day. So most mornings they had somebody walking around with mimosa ingredients. If you wanted a glass of champagne or a mimosa, they were just kind of walking around and offering that. The ice cream man would come by every day and he always had like 4 or 5 different flavors, which were all really delicious.
Yeah.
The coconut and the Mexican vanilla was really, really tasty. So we usually partook in some ice cream by the pool every day. And then later in the day, another cart would come by with like fresh fruit, like cut up mango and pineapple that you could put tagine on. Super refreshing and tasty, but they always just had, you know, like somebody walking around like every couple of hours with different offerings.
So now for the surprise kind of food options we talked about earlier in the video. In addition to some of those kind of smaller carts that would come by the pool throughout the day, Secrets Akumal had these really elaborate dining options that they would just pop up on the resort, and it was really, really impressive. So our first day there, they just set up this whole pergola where they had some guacamole and some salads and wings.
Yeah, different chicken wings.
For lunch. On that same day, they did the tuna demonstration. And then the following day, they had this full barbecue setup. So just name the different types of meats, different sides. It was all being grilled and smoked, and just a really elaborate thing that we weren't expecting.
Yeah, like we kept like making plans for lunch, like, oh, why don't we go to like Seaside Grill for lunch today or this, but then all of a sudden at like noon, there would just be like an unveiling of this like elaborate lunch spread, and we were just like, what?
Because you go to an all-inclusive resort and you expect your food is included, but that kind of includes the stuff that we've talked about already, right?
Right.
This is all an incremental, but like not an incremental cost. It's just something you weren't expecting, and it was a really nice surprise that was honestly a highlight of the trip. It showed how much they really care about the guest experience.
One other day, they did a full like seafood bake, so they had like giant shrimp and like every kind of seafood you could imagine. I was like, I can't imagine what that lunch
Yeah.
alone cost. Even one day they did a guacamole class by the pool, so they just were there showing us how they make guacamole, and then they gave everybody a serving of guac and chips.
Yeah.
So it was just like, there was always something happening every day that you wouldn't expect.
And another thing they had by the pool one day was cut up pineapples where you could go and get some pina coladas and other mixed drinks in. So a really nice option.
On top of that, they had a bunch of evening activities every night, but especially wanted to highlight Akumal, which is their kind of art
Cultural event.
yes. And at that, we went after dinner. It was actually our first night, and we were just like walking around and looking at the different vendors and everything. And all of a sudden, we just kept noticing like how much food they had out.
Yeah.
Like they had all of these prepared meats. You could make tacos. They just had like everywhere you went, from like different dessert stations and different meats and different things that you could assemble into a very hearty meal. Like some people were just having their dinner out there. So it was just, they really go above and beyond to just do little things that kind of are a nice surprise. And it's really good quality food as well. It's not just, here's a burger or a hot dog or something. It's really well thought out and well prepared.
And another night too, I forget the name of the actual event, but they had a big stage set up with they had some musical performances, and there was probably even more food vendors than there were at Akumal. It was all set up by the pool, and so again, Secrets Akumal went above and beyond when it comes to some of the surprise dining options at the resort. So that is the full dining overview of Secrets Akumal. Again, we do have a number of other Secrets videos out on the channel right now, so don't hesitate to go check those out. But that is everything we have for you today. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and follow us on social media at A Couple Travelers.
And until next time, keep traveling. This buffet is huge. We never... Hey.
A Couple Travelers is currently recording. May I give you a call back?
I guess so.
Let me call you back in like an hour.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, bye.
That is funny. Our biggest fan just called.